This is why when you're buying an investment property and focusing on rental income will cost you in the long run $500 to $1 million worth of capital. This is what I find with a lot of my investor clients that work with buyer's agents. About 90% of buyer's agents are conditioned to think that their prime objective is to maximize the client's investment income, but that is so wrong. This is my humble video essay on why when you're focusing on just high rental income for the investment property that you want to buy, you're actually missing out on a lot of opportunity costs, that you're so blindsided that you don't see other properties or other investment properties that have high capital growth and in 10 years will make a big difference. Let's break down the premise of my argument. In my most humble opinion, when you buy an investment property, especially personally to myself, my objective is to focus on growth and income second. Because the biggest newbie mistake for newbie investors, straight out the gate, they focus their attention on income flowing properties. Their prime objective is to minimize cash flow costs. An example, the holding costs of getting this property. In their head, they're thinking, okay, my mortgage is this much. I have to get a property that has this much yield to cover my mortgage repayments and have a bit of cash in my wallet every single month. But based on my own experience in terms of dealing with thousands of clients, seeing their portfolios in the last 15 years, and also dealing with my own, investment portfolios that I have, I can see and conclude when you buy property with high yield and low growth, for example, crazy example, 10% yield and 1% growth versus low yield, for example, 3% yield, for example, Sydney, but high growth, from even 10 to even 15% during the COVID period. Find out 80% of new investors who are new to market are blindsided to only this section. They never consider this part of the equation of property purchasing. Now, everything has their yin and their yang. But a lot of newbie investors only focus on this because usually these newbie investors are time poor and they use buyer's agents. I'm not saying buyer's agents are bad. Some of them are really good. But most of the newbie buyer's agents, to justify why someone will pay them, $10,000, $15,000, they only primarily focus on high yield properties. I've worked with, really good buyer's agents, more seasoned buyer's agents. They're very yin yang with their property investment strategies. They also, offer options like, low yield, but really high growth for their clients, which most of these buyer's agents don't tell their clients. But then a lot of you say, well, what's wrong with more income? What's wrong with having more cash at the end of the day after paying my mortgage repayments? What do you have against that? Well, let me show you a table. This is from a report that comes from a paid subscription that I have. On the left-hand side is the market value of the property, for example, that you purchased. And on the bottom is the duality of the rental yield, for example, 9% slash the capital growth. So as you can see, high yield, low capital growth, you can see from the table as it goes down to here where there is low yield but high capital growth. You can see from the tabulation of this data over the last 30 years, a person who buys a high yield but low growth property will stay around here, but someone who buys a low yield but high growth property will be around here. Drastic difference, about $1 to $2 million. This is sometimes not presented to the investor client, and I'm not blaming buyer's agents. Sometimes newbie investors that don't use buyer's agents, they have this shortcut mentality. Basically, you'll be getting that $200 to $300 in your wallet, which will be eroded by inflation. But your property will go nowhere in the next 10 to 15 years. It's like you getting the happy ending at the Thai massage. That Thai lady's not going to be with you for the next 30 years. But if you buy a low rental yield but high growth property, look at the drastic capital growth that you have, especially when you retire and cash in. But then a lot of you say, hey, what about CGT? Come on, if you made $1 million and then 50% of that is CGT, which is 500K, that's still money, man. Try doing that on a high yield, low growth property. You probably make a capital loss. For me personally, and also for clients that ask me for my opinion, obviously not financial advice, when you find okay moderate yield property but with high growth properties, choose properties that are high grade. I call them high grade properties, and focus on the land appreciation. Don't discount all this crap just because you're getting a very high rental yield. Remember guys, you're buying an investment property not just to cover your mortgage repayments and have some money in your back pocket. That's good. But ultimately, in the long-term vision, you want to buy a property that appreciates in a lot of value. But while you're, waiting for that appreciation, there's a small holding cost, which basically means the rental yield is low. It doesn't cover your mortgage repayments, but that is okay. Now, obviously, no offense to buyer's agents who do a great job. It's just my opinion. So guys, jump in the comments. What do you think about my humble opinion? Do you think the same? Love to read your comments.